Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. Yesterday, Pilate delivered Jesus over to be scourged. And although the scourging itself is not described, we know that it happened, and we talked about that yesterday and what it meant and why it was done. But there was more than just the scourging that happened. There was a humiliation which was quite similar to the humiliation that the high priest and his cronies put Jesus through. We're in Mark chapter 15. I'm going to read verses 16 through 20. The soldiers took him away into the palace, that is the praetorium, and they called together the whole cohort, the whole group, and they dressed him in purple, and after weaving a crown of thorns, they put it on him, and they began to acclaim him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they kept beating his head with a reed, and spitting at him, and bowing before him. And after they had mocked him, they took the purple off of him, put his garments on him, and led him out to crucify him. So after the scourging, they placed a crown of thorns on his head. I have a crown of thorns, this, which would have been much like what would have been placed on Jesus' head, although this is from thorny vines. I'm not sure exactly which vines these are from, but there are two possibilities. Jesus was either given a crown of thorns from the date palm or from the acanthus. The acanthus was probably the one they used, and the thorns would have been about this size. So they would place that on his head, and then the purple. Now, purple cloth, actual purple cloth, was extremely expensive, even more expensive than silk, if silk could even be had. And the production of the dye was so labor intensive at every step. But the Roman soldiers who wore red robes, red capes, those red capes, those red robes, when they faded into a dingy lavender color. And so, that's mentioned from a variety of sources, describing a soldier, a mangy soldier lost or down on his luck, and that's what he looked like. So it's likely that they found an old robe, an old cape, that had faded to this dingy lavender color, and they placed it around him. And then they humiliated him. They took a reed, and they kept hitting him on the head. One assumes they're hitting him on top of the crown of thorns to press it even more firmly on his head. They're spitting on him, and they're saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." I want us to not forget the racial element of all this. Jews had rights as an ancient religion, as practitioners of an ancient religion. But that doesn't mean the Romans liked them. Even someone as highly placed as Agrippa, who we meet in the book of Acts, would have faced persecution, or not persecution, but prejudice. They were Middle Easterners. They were not Romans. They were not Caucasian enough. They had not been born and bred, and they weren't European. And at this time in the Roman Empire, the soldiers, at least the commanding officers, would mostly have been from Italy, at least from Europe. Later on, that would not be the case, but at this time it would have been. And so when Herod says, not Herod, but Pilate says, "King of the Jews," even though he's trying to find a way to let Jesus go, you know that there's a racial element to this, that he's just being as insulting as he can be. Of course, somebody who looks like this would be your king because you are an inferior people. If you weren't inferior, then why are you our subjects? That's there. And anytime someone is dehumanized, is less than human, for racial reasons, because they're your enemy. Anytime that then when you think of someone as less than human and you're given charge of their punishment, then that degenerates into something as ugly as humans are capable of. And that's what Jesus experienced here. I mean, you and I can remember the pictures from Abu Ghraib prison, and so, you know, making sport of your enemy for the enjoyment of it. Well, that's what's happening to Jesus here. Let's not forget that. Tomorrow, when we're together next time, we'll talk about crucifixion and what that was and what that meant. Anyway, thank you for joining me for another 5 Good Minutes with the Word. We'll pick up there next time.